Oh, I guess we're live.
Hello. Yes, we are live
Alright.
now. Hi everyone. Hi everyone who's watching us right now. Nice to meet all of you, and thank you for being here with us on a Saturday during Puasa month, no less. Thanks for being here. And it's really amazing that we all have good internet connection today. That's amazing. So thanks for being here at a forum about gaming where we're going to discuss all kinds of things from the history of gaming, video games, tabletop games, what have you. We're also going to talk about how gaming can also bridge cultural gaps. We're going to go into the more academic side where we're going to talk about ludology, narratology, which Miss Ying will go into, and also talk about other interesting things in terms of game design. So it can get a bit technical, but it's obviously going to be really fun because most of us here, I think we're all avid gamers, or we all have a soft spot for games. We love games. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panelists, or actually, why don't the panelists you give a brief introduction of yourself to our audience? Let's start with Ying.
Oh, okay. Oh, hi. I'm Ying. Right. I'm a lecturer in UOW Malaysia KDU University. I teach in the Bachelor of Game Development program. Currently, also I'm pursuing my PhD. Yeah, PhD in video games, and yeah, and I'm also part of the one of the founders of the Women in Games Hangout, which is called WeGup. It's just a community hangout based in KL, which our aim is to provide a safe space for women, underrepresented folks in the game industry. So yeah, and I'm also an avid gamer myself, and I also do enjoy board games. So like tabletop RPG, D&D, and so on. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ying. And now we'll move on to Siu Ho.
Yeah, I'm Siu Hong, 29 this year, running Senseless Board Game Exchange. It's a tabletop place for everyone to just join us and play board games. We do buy and sell, we do rent, and we frequently organize tabletop gameplay events. We also spearhead the marketing and also promotion for local board game scene in Malaysia. Yeah, because we do feel that the local talent has the local talents are really remarkable and they do deserve the spotlight. They deserve the spotlight. Yeah.
Thank you, Siu Hong. And Chunyan, let's hear from you.
I'm Chunyan. I'm by profession I'm a video producer. But yes, we were talking about how we got into games, and most of us got into games when we were really young. So always like games, and started making my own games. And I'm also part of the Tabletop Game Designers of Malaysia community, which is TTGDMY, which I'll probably be referring to a lot. So if I say TTGDMY, that stands for Tabletop Game Designers of Malaysia.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Akit.
Hi, I'm Akit. People recognize me as A-Kid. I'm a rapper, performer, artist. I've been in the music industry since I was probably 19. So that makes it about almost 10 years. I feel old, but I feel great today. I'm an avid gamer myself. Been exposed to game ever since I was a child. When it comes to tabletops, I don't have much experience, but I do know a little. I do know D&D. I do know Monopoly. I do know Sidina, our own Monopoly. So yeah, I'm excited to give my thoughts today.
Thank you so much, panelists, for introducing yourselves. And now you all know that we have panelists coming from 4 different perspectives today. We have Ying from the academic perspective. We have Siu Hong, who is a board game cafe owner. Chun Yen, who is a game designer and organizer of cultural events centered on games. And we have Akit, who is a rapper, performer, and your everyday youth gamer. So without further ado, we're going to start with the forum. And my first question would actually be for Chunyan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Why not? So many understand board games to be a product of Europe, So, could you give us a brief history as to why that is and how board gaming culture came to be?
Well, I guess you would say if you're talking about Europe, then it would be Euro style games, and I guess that's where the term comes from. And Euro style is as opposed to Ameritrash, or I think I realized most references that when the people I meet that who don't really play games, but they almost always have played Monopoly. So Monopoly is an example of a non-Euro non-Euro game where you are kind of hitting on attacking people, or you go and you get eliminated. Okay, this is easiest thing is you get eliminated from the game. Whereas Euro style games, you manage resources. Everybody has a set number of time played, and then nobody really gets eliminated except for certain mechanics if they put it in. I mean, in the last few years, I read up a bit more about the history of board gaming, and probably Ying can elaborate a bit better. As a professor, I think she would, as a lecturer, she would need to know the history more. But one thing I like, one thing I learned about board game history or Euro style board game history is that when after World War II, the response to building culture again, especially for the Germans, included the design of board games that had that element of building or rebuilding, I guess, in many cases, building of culture, building of communities, building of industries, farming, civilizations, and things like that. So that's probably where the modern style board gaming or Euro board gaming kind of started being more popular or being developed. Yeah. I don't know. Please add on.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chunian, for the brief history. I've heard of Eurotrash, but not Ameritrash, so that's I'm happy to hear that that there's Ameritrash as well. And Ying, I guess the follow-up question I'd have to just elaborate a bit more from what Chunian said was regarding the evolution of games, because we've seen games evolve from the time of ancient civilizations all through to the advent of video games in the 70s. So I'm wondering, why is gaming such a big part of humanity, and if games qualify as cultural artifacts?
Actually, yes, they are. Video games are part of trend cultural history for many, many, many years, right? So the one of the most obvious example is the maturity of both industry and the audience, right? The players, the gamers throughout the whole years. Yeah. So back then, games were viewed as entertainment for children and were mainly catered for male audiences. So those days, there was no point in bringing current events or social issues into games because the audience back then wasn't interested. Yeah. But if you look at it today, we can actually see the significant evolution. So gaming now has become, as you said, a big part of humanity across all ages and genders, right? So more and more people are actually showing interest in the topics related to games. Why? It's because many gamers and developers, right? We are now in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and we are the people who grew up playing video games. So we are more willing to explore, discuss more maturely on the social concerns and current events. So, and also another thing is the increase of production value, right? Last time is video games are simple text-based games, like as Julian has mentioned, that Tetris, right, to AAA games. And if you look at board games, you're talking about from Snake and Ladders back then, and now if you're looking at much more like Catan, like Arkham Horror, those kind of complex right? So we are now looking at hyperrealism, stylized aesthetics, character development, immersive environment settings, complex gameplay mechanics, story-driven. So it has evolved so much, including in games. So in fact, some of these games also touches on real-life events, and there are some who actually highlights important social issues. And of course, the common one will be teaching valuable real life skills, like especially most of it is from the board games. So you can already see from here, games has gone beyond just entertainment. And I believe these trends will continue on in the future. So yeah, that's my take on this.
Thank you, Ying. It's very interesting to note actually that games are moving towards hyperrealism right now. I could never quite figure out if that was it. I was, well, everything is a bit too much in your face. What is it called? Hyperrealism. So there you have it. Also, guys, before I forget, I neglected to mention this earlier, but you can see below at your screen, there is the option to ask questions. So feel free to start asking us questions now, which we will address later on. And there's also a poll section, so you can answer the polls as well. And we will do a Q&A session sometime towards the end of the forum. And now my next question would be for Akit. Being an avid gamer yourself, what kinds of attitudes, positive or negative, that you have observed among youth gamers and within gaming culture?
Based on my point of view, I think in today's youth gamers and gaming culture is very different compared to back then. Today's gamer, I think they bring more positive attitude. They bring more positive impact. For instance, I see a lot of determination in them because they know what they can benefit from the gaming industry today. And I just found out that as of today, the gaming industry stands at 160 billion market cap worldwide. So that itself is already crazy because I'm in the music industry and it's already bigger than the music industry. So gaming will eventually become bigger than the music industry. So they can actually create a career, or if they want to pursue gaming, that nobody can say anything to them anymore aside from themselves. Nobody can stop them. They have a very strong optimism, very strong perseverance. And last but not least, I think the most valuable lesson that I've learned from seeing these players, these gamers, when they come together and play multiplayer games, for instance, like Dota, you have 5 players in a team and each of them have a different role, right? So like Ying said, it goes beyond gaming itself. It takes an understanding of like from a teammate to another teammate, to strategize together, to win competitions together, to rise above whatever challenges that was given to them, whether it's the game itself, whether it's the new updates or the new patches, or whether it's their life itself. It's how they come together. It's how they, rise above whatever challenges that they got. And I think that is something that I learned. But of course, there comes the negative aspects of it. Because as you know, a lot of these youth gamers, they are mostly from high school or college students, right? Yeah, and there's only one negative attitude that I see from them, and it's not such a big thing. I feel like if they know themselves individually, objectively, why they are playing that game, I think they can actually curb this. But what I can say is just them tend to lead an unhealthy lifestyle, and that's about it. They lose sense of time, they lose sense of priorities and everything. So to me, it all falls back to the individual themselves. If they know the objectives, why they are playing the game, they know where they want to take themselves to, I think that can be curbed easily. So that's why I said, like, gaming today brings more positive attitude and impact towards the others.
You were talking a bit about the music industry and the gaming industry and how they are interrelated, right? So it made me think of GTA, because GTA is quite well known for having really long and nice curated playlists that they put on their different radio stations in the cars. That's giving a platform for a lot of musicians as well. And but I do wonder too about toxicity in gaming communities. I don't know if you want to elaborate a bit more on that. We were talking about that earlier during our warm-up. So
toxicity in gaming. Wow, I think for everyone that plays game right now in this particular room, I think they know a lot of cursive words internationally, just from playing game. Like for me myself, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad, but just me playing Dota, I learned a lot of words that I don't even imagine I would know. Like I know a lot of cursive words from Philippines, from Thailand, from Russia, and it's weird to me, and it's super toxic, but it's great. You get to learn them as a human, not just a gamer. You get to learn their frustration and their anger, their teen angst whenever they're playing. So the toxicity is just, I don't know. I feel it's understandable because I've been that player. I've been that toxic player too. When I play Counter Strike, like I told you guys before. And I've been that cyber cafe dude. I'm like, like if we go on LAN, it's not even like online. It was more of a LAN kind of room, and you get to talk a lot of bad stuff through that room. Before the game even started, we've already like argued in the chat room, like what? So yeah, I think you cannot run away from toxicity in gaming. I think that's what's making it so competitive. That's why it's growing so fast, because everybody want to be the best when it comes to gaming. So yeah, that's my point of view, really.
Okay. We can all jump in on this anytime you want, fellow panelists. So, and audience members as well. Feel free to jump in, share your thoughts as well. And now I'll move on to Siu Hong. We were talking about tabletop games and video games earlier. So I was just wondering, correct me if I'm wrong also, why are tabletop games less popular compared to video games? And does it have anything to do with people not being fluent in an alternative gaming language?
I would call it this way because I think moving on when we are I think in the late 80s and 90s, digital is a thing, and everyone's busy. I think we can always remember our parents being busy and unable to entertain us, so they bought this console for us to entertain ourselves. Okay, so this is where I feel everybody is exposed to digital gaming as opposed to tabletop gaming. So digital gaming had a head start. Then growing up, yeah, we're in our 20s, we're in our 30s, and we understood, oh, so we have this perception that digital gaming is kind of superior comparing with tabletop games. In my point of view, it may be not, but yeah, I do agree that digital gaming has some uh, early head start in marketing and also market penetration and such. But to be honest, I think every games are essentially a sandbox for everyone to try out stuff. They always have a win condition and what you could do to achieve this. So everybody tries to compete with their best strategy to achieve this motive. So be it tabletop, be it digital, it's actually the same. We're frequently thrown into a new environment. We try to get used to it and be the best that we can, and may the best man win.
Thank you, Siu Hong. But could you elaborate more on what that gaming language is? Like, what is the new gaming language that we're supposed to learn when we play tabletop games as opposed to video games?
For gaming language, on this, I believe everybody has played Monopoly before or Ludo, which consists of you just roll the dice and you move your pieces. That's a mechanic. That's like how to play what we call roll and move. So roll and move are kind of basic, and it's a lot tested by the newer game designers. So moving on, we have others fairer and also not so random mechanics that players can engage with. Let's say for the how do I put this? We can consider Catan the father of modern board games, which they don't use a roll and move mechanic anymore. You gather resources, you trade, and you build. The key to winning a game is recognizing the dice odds, where 7 is the most frequent number that may be rolled, and also understanding the supply and demand. Certain resources are more abundant, certain resources are scarce. So if we're holding the scarce resources, of course, we have the bargaining power. Hey, come on, you give me this. That's how we assess a situation. And yeah, so, but Catan is widely known in the Europe or America. It's not for Malaysia. It's not there yet. We lack marketing, we lack funding, and so on to bring tabletop as popular as gaming. So everyone's perception towards tabletop gaming language is still back in the days where we are still tossing a dice and moving around. They haven't realized that, oh, it's actually tabletop games has moved so far as well. So we've hope that after this session with Project Dialogue, everybody here can understand that, oh, tabletop game has improved very much as well. We're not just our regular Monopoly, Ludo, or whatsoever. We just throw the dice and let the dice dictate our fates. No, we don't do that.
Definitely. I do think tabletop games have evolved a lot, and I think Chun Yen later can actually go into some detail about some local made games that are really interesting. She can share about them later. Also, I recall, Soo-Hong, we were talking about how, even in terms of video games, how different skills, or I say gaming language, have to be picked up. For example, when video games started off being 2D, where you just only move right. So the understanding is that the screen always has to scroll to the left in order for the character to move to the right. But then when games became more multidimensional, more hyper-realistic, like Ying said earlier, then you have to move the character in so many different directions, but also move the angle of the camera, and then there are different skills that aim down, sight, shoot, that you have to do. So that, I wonder if it's also becoming more complicated, or it's just becoming more intuitive, actually.
I would say it's actually both. So I think Ying would have a better explanation because she's an academic, but I'll try my best to answer it. So, back in the days, when we were playing Super Mario, right? It's Super Mario. So whenever we have the controller, it's just start and a couple of directional buttons and four. And I think it's X, Y, and A, B. So once we are into the game, pretty much nothing. There's only so many buttons. We just have to try out everything. So we move to the left. There's nothing. So intuitively, this is hardwired into our brain. Oh, so for Super Mario, for this kind of game, we always move to the right. So from these nuances, we pick up, okay, side-scrolling games, we always move to the right to progress. In a game, we want progress. We want to win. We want to beat the game. So we learn moving to the right is progress. Then maybe we press some other buttons. Or okay, we can actually jump. We can actually gather momentum and run faster. Oh, we can actually knock into bricks and something good may come out. So it's these designs that makes games interesting and also fun to play with. These gaming languages are taught by the game developers to us via non-verbal cues. They just okay, this is your game controller. Just go figure out. The same with tabletop games. You read the manual and perhaps card A can combo with card B. So maybe I should play them simultaneous in one turn. If I play them separately, they actually don't do much. It's up to the players to figure out the interaction themselves, which makes it a fun progress and also a magnificent learning experience, I guess.
Interesting.
This is my point of view to coin the gaming language. Everybody has to actually play themselves, and it's a journey of self-discovery.
I like that. Very deep. Hashtag. And since we're talking about skills that people can pick up when they're playing games, I'm now thinking about the skills that we subconsciously are making use of. So Ying, my question to you is, proponents of gaming culture would argue that gaming helps develop cognitive interpretation techniques where memory, reasoning, visual motor skills, analytical skills come together to form interpretations of a situation. But can we also argue that gaming introduces us to effective perspective taking, especially when it comes to competitive and cooperative games? And perhaps we can explain to the audience what that means as well, things that we don't realize we're learning about when we're playing games.
Okay. So before that, let me explain what is effective perspective taking. So it actually means the ability to make implications or conclusion about others' emotion and feelings. Yeah, so we are evolving about human emotions and also how they react and how they behave upon it. So in games is always a challenge to predict what humans are thinking or feelings all the time. Yeah, because after all, we humans are known to be emotional beings, right? So, but I think it's also necessary to think about it because it is all about mind games, especially when it comes to competitive or cooperative game, right? You got to have some kind of this mental toughness if you want to stay on playing this kind of games. So I mean, when it comes to games, nobody wants to lose, right? Everybody wants to win. So we'll come up with all kinds of ways, strategy or skills, anything to win, right? So, however, this kind of thing also really depends on whether are you playing alone, are you playing with a team of strangers, or with a group of friends. So because each of this will affect your gameplay experience differently, right? In terms of how the way you think, how you react, how you feel, right? So when you're playing alone, you don't really have to think about other people. You just need to focus on yourself. But if you are playing with other people, especially with cooperative game, then you need to take into consideration of others because another human is involved, right? So we have to keep in mind of the diversity of players out there, right? Especially when it comes to this kinds of game, right? So do expect to meet all kinds of behavior, right? And different skills level of players, including your friends. And yes, as we have talked about it earlier, okay, so another factor to anticipate are toxic players, right? Especially in competitive scene, right? There will always be one, right? In every group, there will, even among your friends, there will always be that one person. So they are meant to be there to just throw players off their game, right? But sometimes they don't realize that it can cause harm as well, right? So some players will take it what they heard to heart, and that's kind of sad, especially if that player is your friend, right? You don't mean it, even though to you it's fun. I'm saying it because it feels good. It feels, I feel good saying it. I can trash talk people and what, but you don't realize that you're actually hurting someone, right? And that someone has done nothing to you, right? That person just wants to have fun, right? So there are actions being taken by game developers up there and the gaming community to reduce this toxic behavior, right? So nowadays you can do all these reports, or you can just tell someone that, hey, judge, this guy is what, so they'll either kick you off from the competition, right? But unfortunately, I do not think it's possible to remove these toxic players entirely, no matter what you do. In fact, trash talking and trolling is considered as part of the culture now in games. It's something that we cannot ignore it. Yeah, something that even though however it will remain. Yeah, so it's only up to all of us how we handle this toxic behavior ourselves. Yeah.
I think what's more dangerous than hurting someone's feelings, not that hurting someone's feelings isn't a bad thing, it's still bad, not to dismiss it, but I think what's more dangerous in the long term, in terms of toxic behavior, is that it excludes certain communities from the gaming world. For example, I think when gaming just started blowing up, a lot of women felt excluded.
Oh yes, a lot of times.
Yeah, and in terms of, the kinds of terms people used to make fun of others, like pussy, sissy, faggot, it's all very demeaning terms that kind of devalues the idea of femininity. So if they detect femininity in you, you're a loser, you're a noob,
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The minute they hear a women's voice in any multiplayer games, sometimes that's why most women we have to mute. The minute they hear a woman's playing behind, that's it. But like I said, these are usually, I read somewhere that the reason why some males apparently they kind of like they don't dislike is also because of level skills. There's a study actually made. So if the players actually are high level skills, usually they're actually quite acceptable to women because for them it's all about skill. As long as you're good, it doesn't matter what gender you are. But a lower skill level, they can't. It's about egoistic already. It's the ego already that harms them. So yeah, there's actually a study of it. It was quite interesting read of it on it. Yeah.
I'd say it's a bit of compensation, I guess, because what they lack in skill, they make up for in terms of aggression.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad, but I think it's evolving. It's changing. It's the gaming space is a bit more accepting right now to women and LGBTQ communities. But right now, when a woman unmutes her mic and speaks, rather than being told to get off the game or what are you doing here, you're a girl, now they just start simping for you. They're like, oh my god, it's a girl.
Oh yeah. It's so annoying.
Yeah, it's like, can you just,
Play and
chill?
focus. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting. And well, moving on to Chun Yen, still about learning, but we're going to talk about culture and history for a bit. Why don't you introduce some examples of games that have been crucial in helping to develop a better understanding on culture and history? And I'd also like to pick your brains. Do you think game designers are trying to copy the European format in terms of game design? Or do you think we've been quite good at coming up with new ideas of our own?
That's like a really loaded question.
It is. It is. Loaded question.
Well, I know we started talking about Euro games simply because I like Euro stuff games where you have more strategy involved rather than randomness and all. And just like Siu Hong was saying just now, I wanted to say after Ying was talking and about slightly not related to what I'm about to go into, but the fact that usually when I try to buy a game, or when I play Marvel Contest of Champions, MCOC, and when I join the alliance, like she was saying, you just everybody's assumed to be a guy. Why is this? And they were always like when I buy a game, and then there was one time I bought Cry Havoc secondhand. It's a board game. It's not battle. So it's Cry Havoc. And when I show up, he wasn't rude or anything. He just like, you're a girl. It's like, and then when in messages, in many other cases, they will always call you dude, or bro, why is it? I just wanted to make a comment about that and throw my 2 cents of experience in a woman in a in a gaming community. So I was Victoria asked me to share a little bit about Malaysian games, and so I started with, I think, when as opposed to what Shihong was saying just now, where there's a few, not really opposed to, but there's little known, little knowledge about board gaming in general, but there's actually I found out there's actually a growing population of Malaysians playing tabletop games. And there's a whole FB community called Board Games to Go, and every other day there's a lot of board games, international titles getting sold, second hand, third hand, fourth hand. So the openness to international titles are actually getting higher and higher, and I think it's. I mean now we call it Euro style board games, but a lot of the Euro style board games are also designed by Americans or Western world. So I think there is some sort of blending of identities where mechanisms are not really like, oh, this is European, this is American, but when you design games, and I think people, I didn't think considering, do I copy a European board game, or do I take on a certain country related or theme game? I guess I don't, and that's why it's quite a difficult question to ask to answer. But I'm just gonna dive into like showing you some of the games that have been designed by Malaysians. It's much easier to do. So I think I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see, how do I do that? Okay, share screen. Boom. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna share this screen that I have because I only have one screen. I borrowed a laptop, and so you're gonna just see. Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so do you see Malaysian games? Yet another list.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I didn't know there was a list before this.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure what list it was referring to, but anyway, this is the TTGDMY Facebook group, and there's a document that lists out all the, well, as many as possible that is known to the members of TTGDMY, what games are published and what is in work in progress. So published. So the first game is Math Magic in 1987. Jimmy Yo published this game with a second version in 1995. And then I'm just gonna highlight a few things that I know of, that I have, like Politico came out and it was quite popular. That reflected Malaysian political culture. Um, and then so this is a whole list of board games that are already published, and then there's RPG systems, role playing game systems. There's ones that's semi-published. So there's a quite a wide. Okay, some have not been updated. Like Vagrant Dash is actually published already. And then there's some that's under development. So like Descendant Empires, Press Rush, Animal Office, the conversation game, Bunnies Cleaning Toilets. Drama Pukul 7 is also already published, but I think it hasn't been updated. So there's a whole bunch of, that's as many as we can. We've listed it there. But I want to highlight a few games that kind of promote Malaysian culture, or what we can find in Malaysia. Major Belakang Art is up and rising, and recently have published 2 games. One is Drama Pukul 7, and they successfully crowdfunded it in MyStarter, and then they also came up with Nak Makan Apa. They are working on a more complex game called Mega Holdings, and plus various expansions for Drama Pukul 7. They're about to go into their 3rd printing right now. This is this is Siu Hong's shop screenshot from stuff. So let's see, can I go this way? Looks like, okay, yeah. So there's a few things like Reef Stakes that I want to mention. Hard Knocks Creatives is a game studio with Ho Xiang as the lead designer, artist, and everything else. And recently, a game that he's designed he's been designing, developing, is called Sidai, and it's about laundry, and you can, and it includes cultural references, like what the different baju or the different types of clothing attire. And so, and he's been doing quite a number of his own games and even miniature figurines. So that's Hard Knock Creatives and Sidai. Recently, last year, there's this game that came out that's called Aman Tanpa Bully, and it's really about responding or trying to facilitate conversations and dialogue, and also hopefully remedial actions for bullying in school. And it comes with a whole guide of how to be the facilitator in bringing up this topic in schools. Then there's also and some friends of mine have come up with this game called Jom Tapau, and it talks about the waste, single-use plastic practice, and that they're trying to promote getting a what call that multiple use, and repurposing and reuse using a game. So this is one of the play tests that we've been having, and if you see here, then people walk around and get food from stalls, and they either can use plastic, or they can go to the shop and get tiffin carriers and stuff, so that and you can even get a tote bag to put your different containers in. And on the left, then whenever you do use plastic, it goes into landfill. So that's Jom Tapao. There's the Lepak game came up in, I think, 2017, many years ago, and it really talks about well, it's let me show you. Yeah, so it's like, you choose a boss, you pick some cards to match it, and then there's a whole idea of bodeking, and you use a lot of Malaysian terms, and the couple who created it actually was trying to learn more or teach more about Malaysian culture through the game. I'm going to go across the border a little bit. A Malaysian who is now based in Singapore founded Say What, and she uses card games to teach about languages. So there's Hokkien, there's Malay, there's Singlish, Manglish as well. Since we are over the border, there's also Mercat Games, a subsidiary of Capital Games Studio, and their games also reflect the culture that is also reflects a Malaysian culture in Singapore. There's Origame or Origami. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but one of the
Origin, yeah, you got
okay.
it right.
And then I Daryl Chow, who's the lead designer of Origame, has come up with things like Kopi King, Chop, Mooncake Master, which also Malaysians can really see. Well, it's just a thing to be able to look at a game or play something and reflects our own culture. So I mean, these are just how do I close this? I think here, right? So these are just different examples of games in our region that reflects culture. I didn't really go much into the mechanisms in that are used in different ones. Obviously, different games will use or employ different kind of mechanisms. But just looking at one of the things that I really liked when I read the description of this forum was that question of can culture be gamified? Can you see culture being reflected in games? And I think as far as in the Malaysian context or even the Singaporean context, I'm happy to see that there are more and more games that reflect our own culture. One of the games that I played earlier on a few years ago was a game called Singapore, and it's not designed by a Singaporean or Malaysian or even an Asian. But when you play it, you are playing a rich merchant, and like you are trying to build Singapore, and you are moving this Chinese looking, the meeples are actually Chinese looking. They've got, and you're moving these Asians around to do your dirty work. And after I played it, I really felt, oh, that's, the three of us who play, is like, we don't want to play it again, because it just brought up a culture that, well, it just reflected the wrong side of our culture. I don't know whether it's the right side or wrong side, but it just didn't leave us with a nice taste in our mouth.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the point or objective of games, right? To just introduce you or get you to start talking about cultures, whether positive or negative, and it's really up to the players to discern for themselves. Is this something they want to keep? The youth, anyway, they are the thought leaders of the future, and they would decide what remnants of their ancestors they want to keep and what they want to discard.
Yeah, interestingly enough,
yeah.
when Monopoly was the
Yeah.
first creator of Monopoly was called the Landowners game, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
created it so that um, to kind of bring to light the unfairness of the
Yeah.
rich getting richer, the poor getting
Mm-hmm.
poorer. But you know people
Yeah.
learn what they need to from games, and you can't
Definitely.
you
Yeah.
can't keep a
So
cap on it.
perhaps, Akid, who is a youth yourself, you can comment a bit more on that. Since we're talking about the positive values we can learn in games, I was wondering how much merit you would give to the opinion that gaming culture leads to all sorts of destructive values like violence, antisocial tendencies, lack of productivity. Do you personally feel that gaming can teach important life skills or interpersonal skills with other people?
Great question. I think, to be honest, if we narrow down, if we want to speak about destructive values, I think there's many other digital medium that promotes the same destructive values. I think we as the people that is more experienced when it comes to this digital medium, we have to carry the message, or we have to make sure that the next generation that is going to play the game or that's going to get themselves into this sort of digital medium, they know what is right and wrong. We have to guide them, we have to teach them, because if really, like, aside from gaming, let's say we can just go to YouTube. YouTube is a very informative platform, right, as everyone knows, but there is a lot of destructive values in there too. We don't have to go that far. And so I think I wouldn't give too much to that. I wouldn't give in too much to that opinion. And I feel like gaming has more positive things to offer to us, and that's it. Uh, for once, I think that for me lah, personally, when I play game, what I've picked up along my life, whereas when I was young, I play game with my friends. They bring my friends together. My friends come over, my relatives come over. We will always have a good time. So I don't understand what destructive is. Of course, there's violence in a Street Fighter or King of Fighter or whatever. Of course, there's Mortal Kombat and all that. But really, we don't play because we want to literally kill someone. We play because it's satisfying to land a combo. It's satisfying. It's freeing. Like it past like whatever barriers that you guys have in between, whether it's between you and your friends, whether she's a female or a male. And nowadays, like, there's a lot of games that really shows a lot of how to say, they men and women character in the game is leveled now. Like, there's no such thing as female character and they're weaker. Like, literally a female character can beat your ass and you can use whatever type of monster you can use. So to me, gaming right now has a lot of positive messages, and of course, like, they have to go against the narrative of destructive values and racism or sexism. Of course, that thing is still around, but we cannot just simply focus on that just because that thing is obvious to certain people. There is a lot more positive values that is more obvious than the destructive values. So we, as more experienced gamers, experienced people in this digital medium, we need to, like, just tell people, like, chill out. There's more positive things that you can learn from it.
Mm.
That's my
Yeah.
point of view. And for me, I've picked up a lot of life skills. I know a lot about from playing RPG. I have learned about choices and consequences, like, literally. I've learned about I've learned to seek. I've learned to strive for whatever that I'm finding for in my life, based on playing RPG, because literally RPG is about finding the truth, finding what's the backstory of certain characters, learning the character development and everything, and you want to finish the game. So for me, it teaches me to keep striving, keep going for what you're looking for, whether it's greatness, whether it's the truth, whether it's the loved ones or whatever. When you apply that to real life, it actually relates. It actually makes sense. So yeah.
I also add on a bit that I think there is a difference between violence portrayed in games and violence you actually see for yourself in real life. And what you said just now rings true, because escapism does not equal reality. A lot of us would fantasize about things. We escape to like a fantasy realm of ours, but it's not because we actually want to enact any of those things, and it doesn't mean that we have destructive thoughts or values in our heads. It's a very different thing, and I think Ying can maybe tell us more about the psychological aspect of that how dreaming that you want to murder someone is not the same as actually murdering someone, and there's a clear distinction between that. And also, I think before games could desensitize us to violence, the news and the media has already done its part, if not our parents, warning us about other races. Stay away from Indian people because they're drunk and alcoholic and violent. Stay away from, they're already doing this. They're already doing the damage that they would think games would have done, right? So, but thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, Akit. And now for Siu Hong, we're going to divert a little bit, again, back to culture. We were talking also yesterday about cultural exports from different countries. So Japan has been pretty successful in exporting anime, as Korea has done so with K-pop. How do games perform as tools for cultural exports? And do you think Malaysia is likely to succeed in exporting our culture to the world out there?
Yeah, we have three different races. We have abundance of different food, which we all enjoy. So I think there's nothing short of interesting topics that could be exported. But the thing is, we do need effort. We do need funding for these. Okay, let's delve back to maybe the digital game side. Has anybody played Sakuna over here? A game about hack and slash, and at the same time, you'll need to keep track of your farm, what are you planting, and so on. So the concept is really new, and there's not much guide. So most of the players, do you know where do they figure out the tips and tricks for this? They actually do refer to the Japanese agricultural official site for how do I plant, when do I plant, how high of the water level should I keep track of my plants. So there's a lot of different knowledges and also culture aspects that could be exported if we gamify it in an interesting way. Players come in, yeah, I want to win this. I want to be good at it. And how do we what's the word again? Incentivize them to give incentive to them to make them chase for this knowledge and culture. It's up to the game designers to properly place these in an interesting manner. So if we manage to do this well, our culture, why not? We do have the abundance of wonderful food, sceneries, and so on that we could probably export to the whole world and probably raise our GDP and maybe Singapore. No, sorry, Zio. Yeah, of course, Malaysia, we do want to raise our GDP higher and stand with the bigger boys in the international stage.
Yeah. One of the audience members actually said that in Final Fantasy 15 there is, I think, a stall somewhere that's selling roti canai.
Yes,
so
there is.
Yeah.
Because of our dear Malaysian game designer, Wan Hasmir. So yeah, he's the one who started the culture thing, trying to implement Malaysian in there. So,
yeah.
Super sexy food, super or gorgeous.
Yes. So in diverse representation really does work.
Yeah.
So we need more of that in the game design industry. Thank you, Siu Hong, for your thoughts. And now back to Ying. Now this is going to get really academic and intellectual, but I trust Ying to do a good job in explaining what this means to all of you. Could you explain to us the difference between narratological and ludological views on gaming and games? And why is there ongoing debate between the two? But we should first explain to people what narratology and ludology is.
Okay. Okay, this one I have to put up my note a bit because I have to summarize it. Okay, narratology means games should be understood and studied as a novel of narrative because games are closely related to story. So narratology is mainly focusing on the story side, whereas in ludology, means games should be understood and studied on their own terms. So this one focuses mainly on the game mechanics. So to put it simple, narratology, story, game narrative, ludology is game mechanics. So yeah. So the ongoing argument between these two is due to the different views among actually more academicians, the ludologists, the narratologists, and some other scholars, right? So ludologists, all right, says that these two components cannot exist together, right? Narrative and game and mechanic cannot coexist together because to them they are fundamentally different. So a game should be studied purely just the game mechanics, right? On the other hand, the narratologists, all right, says games should be studied for their stories, right? And to complicate further, other scholars believe these two fields are the same, yeah, but should study separately. So on my personal stance is actually quite simple. I neither agree with any sides, yeah. There is no correct sides if you think about it. Yeah, in my opinions, narrative is important. Yeah, it's an essential ingredient to create highly engaging games, right? So because after all, stories do help players to feel more involved and immersed in the game. So in fact, gamers today actually favor more a balanced game experience, not just gameplay, but they also want some story element in it. Yeah. So incorporating both gameplay mechanics and narrative elements together, you can actually create a much more successful games. And furthermore, majority, if you look at the current games today, they rely actually on good story writing to drive the gameplay. So, well, there are games that narratives is not that important, such as Minecraft. And maybe another example, I think Exploding Kittens, right? But if you look closer at these games, you are still able to find some kind of lore or reasoning for why their worlds are the way they are. So yeah, so that's my take in short regarding the difference between narratology and ludology. So for me, I believe actually they can coexist, actually. In fact, it's great if you can coexist both of them, you know, because it's what games today. And us, again, as I repeat earlier, us humans are emotional beings. So we react, you know, to all this element to them. So yeah.
Interesting take. Hope that was a bit more enlightening for all of you. And now, Chunyan, as a game designer, what are some important considerations that should take precedence in the design of a good game? Is there a lot of research into the psychology of gamers? And do you think game designers are shaping the way players think, or is it the other way around? And this is kind of like 3-4 questions in one, but between game aesthetics and mechanics, which one is more crucial in driving story and character? I've always been curious about this.
I should say to start off with that I think different game designers would approach their process differently. For me, I call myself a culture inspired tabletop game board game designer simply because I think of the theme, I think of the culture that I want to highlight first, and then I'm like, oh, I should make a game about that. Like, you know, I visited a soy sauce factory. It's like, oh, I should make a game about making soy sauce. You know, that kind of, and then figure out what mechanics would fit or what I want to do with the game. In terms of Kaki Lima, for example, it was supposed to be a very simple game and an example to participants in a youth arts camp, so that they can design their own board game with their phone. You know, so it started very simply, and then after that, when we decided that we wanted to develop it further, then we did think about what conversations we would want to create for players of the game. Even during the youth arts camp, like, you know, calculate 5 footways as a public, private, or shared space. You know, and then as they move around and they find difficulty to get to the places that they want to because of block kaki lima, then, you know, then with facilitation that there could be dialogue and conversations about it. So with that said, I'm also currently designing a game called Bansan, which is the northern Hokkien word for wet markets or markets lah. And I'm designing this with a workshop in mind that will be done by the Arts Ed team in order to put young people in the shoes of the different roles of the whole supply chain of a wet market, from the farmers to the wholesalers to the vendors in the market to the market management and the customers, and so we hope that when the different participants play the game, then it would also give rise to feeling that particular role in that chain, and also think about social identity, and how the different community members kind of interact with one another, depending on their social background or social status in life. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult. I went from figuring out what mechanics would fit, let's say getting the supply, to realizing that it could be a whole different game if each player would play a different role in the game. So it would have to be more asymmetrical mechanisms. Yeah. So I think approaching a game can be very different. Like I have a friend Evan in Penang who looks at game design very differently. He thinks of the mechanics first, and then he's like, what theme would suit this mechanic, and he's constantly churning out different ideas of games, so I guess for me, I'm more interested in how a game would reflect what a piece of our culture, as well as what conversations could be brought up by that gamer.
Thank you. That was quite insightful. And since I saw in the chat someone was talking about how board game cafes can help propel local board games and tabletop games to the mainstream masses, my next question for you, Siu Hong, would be about board game cafes. Why do they have such a strong appeal to young adults, and maybe on a philosophical level or spatial psychology? I wonder if board game cafes, its environment provides that safe sandbox-like environment you were talking about earlier for people to try things out and fail safely. Is that why it has such a strong appeal?
Yeah, the main thing about tabletop games that you have to be there physically. Yeah, with the age of the internet, yes, of course, we do have tabletop simulators that we can play remotely on the same table. But the draw of the board game cafes are still, yes, we have to be there physically ourselves because we enjoy the companionship of whoever we know. We get to see their faces, we get to share a memorable session, we get to actually see them react in person. When they win, their laughters, or when they lose, when we manage to punch them in the face, those kind of things. Hey, it's me plus 2 points, you minus 2 points. Too bad to be, sucks to be you, that kind of thing. Because I think, as personally for me, maybe I should say this, but personally for me, as I grow older, I appreciate these moments more. So I would gravitate towards in-person social interactions. Yeah, so this is the tabletop and also board games charm for me. It's not that digital games are not fun. Yes, I do enjoy calling out my guys to take a whole role in the cyber cafe and still play Dota as well from time to time, maybe quarterly. It's still a very good experience where hey, come on, this guy is gang war at top, so join us all. But it's these where we get to meet up physically and yeah, as long as we are together physically, yeah, that's the thing, which is kind of hard during this COVID season. But yeah, we have to make do with whatever we have.
Thanks, Siu Hong. But yeah, it does make a lot more sense as to why board game cafes can help provide that safe environment for people. And my final question for the day actually is for Akid. Last but not least, we were talking about Final Fantasy earlier. I think one of the audience members, DJ, mentioned it. I understand that you yourself enjoy watching Final Fantasy gameplays.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what are some of the interesting things or values you have noticed being promoted in these games, and if there are any new games you're looking forward to playing, and why do you think they're interesting?
Okay. First of all, to be honest, I'm not that exposed towards the recent Final Fantasy. I'm more of a Final Fantasy when during the PS1 and PS2 era, but still I do play a lot of Final Fantasy when I was young. I play 7, 8, 9. I play Final Fantasy Tactics. I watch my cousin play Final Fantasy 11 and 12. So that thing, one thing I realized is that friendship is really important, having great people around you, because there's, I don't know why, but there's a lot of betrayal going around Final Fantasy. For some reason, a lot of betrayal going around. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, from that itself, it taught me that loyalty is rare. You know, whatever the backstory. Yeah, bro, like the backstory of each and every character, each and every struggle, like it's so crazy. That's why when Ying said, like, you know, when you get to the backstory with the character development, you know, you want not just game aesthetics, not just game aesthetics, not just the mechanics, but the story as well. You know, the story is the thing that got me glued.
Captivating stories, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that is the thing that got me glued, and I've learned about loyalty, I've learned about friendship, I've learned about empathy, because, you know, there's a few characters that I think the one that I recognized was Vivi on Final Fantasy 9, because Final Fantasy 9 was the most healing to me.
The character.
Yeah, and he is this small mage, and he's so insecure, but at the later point of the game, he is so strong, but he's so small, and he's like, it'll make no sense. And he casts magic onto this guy called Albert Steiner, if I'm wrong, and this guy can like do a magic on his sword, you know, his magic plus his sword.
Crazy stunts, yeah.
Yeah, crazy things. So from there, I learned like, yo, it's all about empathy, it's all about teamwork, it's all about encouraging each other, because how Vivi got that strong was because of the main character Zidane. He is like an older brother to Vivi, sort of. He always encouraged Vivi. They're always together, you know, they're always going through adventure together, having troubles together, and eventually, like, that bond just makes them super strong. And of course, Ayla make them super strong because I keep grinding 24/7.
The grind of it.
I'm the master of it all. But yeah, and when it comes to new game, I think I'm stoked for Hogwarts Legacy, to be honest. I've seen the trailer, and I know I do not own a PS5, and I wish I could own a PS5, but I'm working really hard on it. So I think the first game I would want to purchase is probably Hogwarts Legacy. I think it's because of what, like you said, you know, the hyper realistic is how you can, you know, create your own characters, how you pick up skills in the game. Whether I hope I can choose whether the bad side or the good side. I hope I can be part of Voldemort teams, even though it's not Voldemort's era. But you know, I just like how games these days give you more choices. You don't have to be good all the time. You can actually be a bad person and still enjoy the game. You know, because there's like different storylines to each route that you take. You know, so yeah. That is number one. And number two, I think, Wukong or something, the recent game.
The Wukong, the Black Wukong,
the Black Wukong, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, to me, that one is straight up graphics and mechanics, for real.
Super looking forward.
I go collecting the game, so good.
Yeah, so these two games is the one that I'm looking for. So yeah, pray for me. God, please give me a PS5 soon. I mean, it's Ramadan, right? So bless me. I hope my wish comes true.
Yeah, I do think games. When you talked about how you can choose to be either on the good side or bad side, I also think that the way games have evolved on the narrative of the villain is also a lot more complex. Where the villain is not just this one-dimensional guy who is just evil for the sake of being evil. There's a very complex backstory to the
Definitely.
development of his evilness, and then sometimes the bad decision that he's making is kind of morally ambiguous, kind of like characters like Bane or
Pretty
what's
much
the guy? Oh
anyone
my
from
gosh, I
Batman.
got that gem already. But the guy who snapped his fingers and half the world died.
Thanos.
Yes, Thanos. Yeah, you know, these morally ambiguous characters who have like pretty strong arguments as to why they have to do the things they do. You know, so I think this is keeping up with like hyperrealism as well. Story-based games have the potential to explore these ethically, morally ambiguous areas, and yeah, the reason why I asked you about Final Fantasy also is because I think FF7, the one that came out free on PS.
Oh, that was so
or-
good. I
The
love
PS4,
FF7.
yeah, the remake.
Big fan.
The remake super good.
I was surprised to see that it was talking about like the environment,
Yeah.
environmental rights and things like that, and it was very complex because there was a debate going on between the characters, where some of them were against violence and revolutionary tactics, and some of them were like, you have no choice if you're faced against fascists and the corporate world, you have no choice but to do this. You know, it's a very interesting philosophical debate.
Yeah.
So
Final
yeah, I
Fantasy
mean,
taught me a lot about social hierarchy too. When I was young, I was
Yes,
just
we
a
obviously
small
see that.
kid, and I know about social hierarchy a little bit, not too much, but still it taught me that, you know. So yeah,
definitely. So,
Yeah, let's face
so
it.
to-
It's sorry. Let's face it. It's much more interesting than because games have this ability to cut down these thick concepts into bite-sized medium that we can consume. We're playing, we're having fun, then suddenly we're hampered with this. Oh, okay, we should try to pay more attention to environment and stuff. Yeah. As opposed to we actually attending a seminar or government specialists talking about these, we wouldn't want to go there in the first place. Yeah, this is the credit goes to game designers. They
Yep.
well planted concept.
And they
Definitely.
kind of got it in the right time, you know, because like I said, back
Very
then they did talk about it in the PS1, but nobody seems to like really notice about it.
Yeah.
But
it
now
wasn't
because-
catching on.
Yeah, no one catch on. That's why when they brought this back, you can see they emphasize it more. Although yes, supposed to be a long, but they cut it short. But there's a strong emphasis there, and
has
things really
impact
keep being hit to it now
Yep.
compared 23 years ago. Yeah.
Much more compelling. Yeah.
Definitely. So I guess this is a very strong example of how games have the potential to gamify a lot of good values, elements of culture and history. It can all be gamified, and games are a good platform for that. Much more than I'd say textbooks.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you so much. Wait, sorry, what?
Which brings us to the probable proposal that games could be listed as a form of art. If anybody is reading up on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It is. Actually, it is already. It is a form of art.
Yeah.
It is.
I go further than that and call it a cultural artifact. Like
It is a
if
culture.
humanity were to die out, aliens visit us or something in the future, they would pick up a game and be like, this is what humanity created, this thing, this game, you know? That's our cultural artifact, and we can be proud of it. But yeah, so thank you so much to the panelists for sharing your interesting insights from your different perspectives and background to the audience members here. And now we're opening it up to questions from the audience, because I see you guys have been actively engaging with us, and I think some of you are itching to ask us questions. So please do. In the meantime, I will take the questions from this section here. First question is from Rustam, and he asks, media and society has always been blaming games that include violence for being an encouragement to real life violence. How do you think gamers and game developers could go against that statement? And do you think that such issues could lead to more strict rules to game developments in future? Is there a possibility for us to see less of violent games in the future? So who would like to take on this question?
Oh, tough question.
Some of it was addressed with the
I think
discussion
Siu
just
Hong-
now as well.
Yeah, we sort of answered it with Akid's question earlier,
Yeah.
but Siu Hong, do you want to repeat your answer for everyone?
It's actually really tough to answer this question, but from my point of view, I don't think games encourage real life violence. Games portray violence oftenly as a way to overcome challenges that which mirrors whatever we are facing in life. Yes, we have to excel, we have to progress, we have to learn and pick up stuff to overcome challenges in life. But we do have to stay matured and how do I put this? Separate whatever we have in games from whatever we are facing in real life. Yes, we of course we can just hack and slash, kill off all the demons in the games, but yeah, we couldn't really like kill our bosses or whatsoever. It doesn't work that way. The better thing to do would be to understand. What's the roadblock that I'm facing? Perhaps I'm not good enough in this part. Perhaps I should pick up a new skill. Perhaps I should consult my other seniors, or perhaps I should just study more. And if you have problems like project dialogues, we should just ask and talk more about it so that we can get constructive feedbacks, I guess.
Yeah. But what about you, Ying? Do you have perhaps an
It's
academic perspective on this?
kind of
Sure.
quite common questions, especially when parents comes over. Yeah, so for me, sometimes I actually do believe I do believe actually parents and guardians actually plays an important role in this. Yeah, because this violence mostly starts because of when they are young, right? The kids. So it goes all the way back on the upbringing of the child and how the parents actually raise this kid, right? If the parents have taught them, or any adults or any like guardians all have taught them to know the difference between virtual and reality, right? What is right and what is wrong, I think we would not have this issue going on, right? The reason why all these violences happens is because lack of monitoring, lack of nurturing. So when they do this, to them, the kids, when they play the game, oh, it's fun, but they don't realize that that's virtual. So you can kill anyone that because it's virtual, not as no one that's real is dying. But when they did it in real life, an actual person actually dies. So they don't see or comprehend that, or realize that what this is happening. So in the end, it's all about the guidance, from adults, especially adults, to the kids, right? Because when all these violence happen, it is so easy to just blame games, right? Because nobody wants to take the responsible. If someone dies, who's going to what? Blame the games. It's so easy, So that kind of point of view, I feel sometimes is an excuse. Personally, I feel it's kind of an excuse. Yeah. So that's my take on this.
Interesting. Thank you so much. I hope we answered your question, Rustam. And now we will take the other question in case other panelists want to take on that question too. Yes, no? Okay, then we'll move on to the other question, which is, how did you guys start in game developing? I guess Chunian can take this.
Siu Hong also is thinking of a game, right? He has some game ideas in mind.
I'm not sure if I could speak for everyone, but from my point of view, there's usually two takes. One, you start from the mechanics. The other one, you start from the theme that you want to convey. Mechanics is how do you play it. If you think that this way, smashing buttons or killing stuff, it's a fun thing to do, then yes, by all means, do it. Then slap a skin on it to make it visually appealing. Or if usually or you can approach it thematically. Let's say I want to preach for what are the issues that we discussed earlier, environment stuff, or also pollution. Yeah, there's a popular game called CO2, where we play as the big nations. Yeah, we bid for however much carbon. What's that term again? How much capacity of carbon dioxide that we can emit, that we can expose to the atmosphere, and try not to sabotage the earth. So actually, this theme is pretty interesting, and it highlights whatever environment themes that we are currently actively debating. We actually get to play as the nations, and oh yeah, if I increase my production by this much, I would commit extra CO2 by this much, which jeopardizes the whole world. But if I do this, I get extra money. So do I want to do it? Do I want to win it for myself but sacrificing the other nations? Or there's a lot of interesting interactions going on in this game. You could either approach it from the game mechanics or the thematic side, depending on you. That's my take, lah. Different people may have different approaches for this.
Developing a game, sometimes for me, it's like a game in itself. Figuring it's like a puzzle that you need to figure out. Like a solution to a question, or So sometimes the question was how do you get into development? I don't know. It's just it was something that just I thought, hey, it'd be an interesting game to create a game. So sometimes that could be a reason to.
Usually it begins with what if I do this? What if I do this? Would this be fun, or would this be cool to engage with? Then start from there. What if I do this? What if I do this? It's actually part of learning it at its core. Yeah.
But of course, as you move down the production line, the process, there are a lot of things that just become harder and harder. And I think
harder, actually.
Those of you who are interested in board game design, if you just join the TTGD-MY group, then you can find all sorts of similar questions for new people, like where you go to print, and I think it's important to have a good support community lah. I've really benefited from being able to play test the games. Both Kaki Lima went through 15, 16 versions. Sunshine is already at its 15th version. Before it goes into a different variant, different people. That's why we open our doors for people to come into as they're developing games as well, so that they can play test. And now a lot of it's on Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia, where there's an online platform for play testing.
Yeah, what I've heard is that game design, game development is a very long and arduous task, and it's really not as simple as people think. You just hire a big team, you're good to go. Or with tabletop games, you think 6 months is enough? No, it's not. You need at least 2 years. There's a lot of testing and R&D to do. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us what the process is like. The next question is from Prof. Pico, asking, apakah kriteria pemilihan lagu soundtrack dalam game? So, siapa nak jawab? This one I think Akid pun boleh.
Yeah.
Akid boleh.
Apakah kriteria pemilihan lagu soundtrack dalam game?
Interesting.
Wait, is he asking from a point of view of a game developer or as
Yeah.
I think any of you, any perspective would do. We can take all the perspectives.
Well, to me, I don't know if you guys watch this documentary on Netflix about game, but I think I like the fact when back then, during when they wanted to create Donkey Kong, when they wanted to make Pac-Man, there's this one quote that they say, sound confirms action. So to me, back then, before music was in game, before sound, what do you call that thing? Is there just a one word for it? Basically, sound engineering for gaming in music, the sound engineering for gaming. Yeah, before all the music comes in, before the GTA radio and all that, I think the small effects of a sound means a lot, so I think if you ask me about pemilihan lagu soundtrack dalam game, I think I would just go for whatever that is suitable for it, because I remember playing Ragnarok different maps has different soundtrack because you're in a different dungeon, different setting and everything.
Yeah.
So it depends on the settings as well. You can't just be. I mean, GTA. That's why they provide so many radios in the first place, and GTA is pretty much basically just roam around with your friends and just shoot people and all that. But when it comes to RPG, the music has to fit with the settings. It has to, and to me as a gamer myself, not the game developer, I think it's very well thought. They have to be very careful, they have to properly plan, and I appreciate whatever music that they put out for the game. Really, there is no specific criteria. It all depends on the theme, the settings. So yeah, that's my point of view.
Yeah, the theme, the settings, the emotions that you want to evoke,
Yep.
the message that you want to convey, everything plays a part in deciding what soundtrack goes into.
Yep.
Everybody remembers the epic boss fight with Sephiroth. It's the perfect example. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. That's a really good quote, actually. Sound confirms action. I guess it's another way of saying music provides narration. Whether it's for film or for games, how the change in mood, atmosphere, or to signal like a big boss fight is coming up, so the music changes and it provides that atmosphere. It also makes me wonder about, I recently heard that a lot of artists and musicians are actually tailoring their music to fit TikTok's algorithm, like the kind of genre they would go for in TikTok. So artists and musicians are sort of evolving to appeal more to TikTok, and I definitely feel the same applies for games as well. But I think with games, it's a lot more atmospheric, it's a lot more theatrical. There are a lot of cinematic components over there, so you're gonna have to really dramatize the shit out of it.
Each different scene, different levels, you got to apply the sound differently in order to give the mood of it. And
characters in the game will probably each have their own theme song as well. So there's something like, I guess people would consider. We hope we answered your question, Prof. Pico. Thank you very much for your question. And we have another one from Rustam again, asking, saying board games have been recently mostly digitalized. Do you think it's a good or bad thing? Do you think that encouraging new generations to try out the physical version of the game after testing the digital version, or would it harm the tradition of physical board games? That's a good question, I think. I think like Codenames, for example, it has a digital version right now. And
it's a really tough question to answer. I don't actually know the answer myself. I'll try my best. Okay.
Okay. Actually, I kind of have thought of this one. On this question.
You go first.
Okay. One thing also for me, I kind of actually I don't know. For me personally, I think it's a good idea to do that. That you digitalize first and then later on, is because of this one reason. And I also observe playing with my friends and my colleagues and regarding this. Okay, the one thing we need to know here is it takes a while for people to get into tabletop games, especially board games, because you are required to read the rule book to understand the game. And today, unfortunately, most people don't like reading, right? Or even have the patience to read. So nowadays they actually and then they expect and everyone just want to jump into the game and start playing, and they actually expect someone to guide them on the spot, just like how tutorials in video games, right? So this is something I feel is always a challenge if there's no one there to do that for table games, right? Especially when you want to play games like Root, right? You want to play like Akram, all those are kata, like very complex games, right? So that's the reason why because I myself wanted to play Root, the board game, because it's beautiful and I think it's like a very Fable-like game. So me and my friends will have a debate. Should we buy it or not? Because we read it's so complex. Each character, each strategy, and it's not cheap. So what we did was we bought the digital version.
I also bought the.
There you go. So we bought the digital version, and the tutorial is superb. It's flawless. It's like, oh my god, compared to a book and compared to a game that teaches step by step, you know. And because in one day we got the whole game. In one day we managed to learn everything. And because of that, it somehow correct. And it somehow encourages wanting to get the physical version. Now we are actually looking for the physical version right now. You know. Yeah. So I feel it works, you know. It does work.
Interestingly enough, at the same time, my friend, we both got digital versions, and then my friend he decided to go get the actual
Physical.
version, and then he brought it over, and then actually, it's a different experience. I think I enjoyed both. I enjoyed the digital version.
Definitely
but it's a very different thing when you are having to move the components around. You know, it's very tactile. You know, so I'm also torn between like and some of the root talking about soundtrack, right? The root soundtrack, I mean, with the music behind, the sound effects, is like so cool. You know, so but it's hard to get
it's very hard. It's very, very hard. But the thing is, you enjoy both. That's the most important thing, you know.
But
So, yeah,
actually,
it does
kudos to the digital games developer as well. You know, not all versions of
were that
board
great.
games will be
But Root
translated
was good.
well.
Root was good.
Actually, one of the audience members also commented on Rustam's question by saying that I think if they like the digital one, they would definitely want to get a different feel and go look for the physical one. At least digitally, it's easier for them to share with friends who are far away too before they want to meet up and play in
is true.
person. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that human beings in general are quite tactile creatures. Aside from just seeing with our eyes, we have to taste and smell and touch things. It's just the way we are, especially touching. We got to touch it. That's why I think a lot of games, physical games, incorporate, the way the box is designed. For example, I will give you an example. Like we have Otak Gem over here. We incorporated half moon finger holes here because we wanted to emulate the experience of being able to open the box, easier. And they're gonna open it. They're going to want to, I don't know. Some people like the smell of new things, the chemical smell, and then like open up the plastic and touch the cards, and
It's
that
more
whole
like
experience
Tony.
is therapeutic.
My Malay friend said bau kedai.
Yes.
The smell, the shot itself.
Yeah. You can't
That
get that
fresh.
experience from like a digital game, you know? It's like you can hold it, touch it, keep it in your house. And that's why it's also designed in a really beautiful way. So people want to keep it for longer. That's kind of what we're thinking. You know, the human experience is always trying to involve all your senses. But yeah, that's an interesting question. Thank you for that question.
Sihong, your mic is muted.
Yes, Yuhong, sorry, I muted you earlier because of the background noise.
It's all right. I'm just compiling stuff over here. It's not actually good or bad because we are humans. We're just paying for entertainment. So it depends on what do you actually prefer. Do you mind sitting in front of a screen? Digitalized means screen as of now. We don't have VR or AR that popular yet. So we are bound to a screen, a small screen. You want to sit over there and crouch. But if it's okay, it relaxes you, by all means, go ahead. But if you prefer the companionship of some other people around you, then perhaps go buy the physical copy. It's okay. Digital versions, maybe cheaper, but you have to own a phone, then you buy that. So it's actually, I don't know, depending on how you look at the cost, it may be more expensive or it's actually up to that person's budget. But if they enjoyed it, for digital versions, I do think it's a good way to try out various games. If your local game store doesn't have it, by all means try the digital version. If you like it and you want to play it with your friends physically, go buy the physical copy. That's my take, yeah. We're essentially paying for entertainment, and depending on how we want to spend our entertainment time.
So I think this would be our final question for the day because it's 5:33 now and we should end soon. Although I think the conversations have been quite invigorating thus far, and I think everyone wants to stay on and actually continue talking, which is fine. But this question is from Hilmi, who asks, what about tabletop miniatures? Do you have that as part of expansion or next phase of your games? Miniatures on popular games such as Warhammer 40k is money cow for games, workshop, and community built around that. Yeah.
I play X-Wing. I love X-Wing, but I don't think I would develop a miniature game. I don't know. I mean, the process will be Hua Xiang from Hard Knocks Creatives, where he makes his own miniatures, but I'm not sure it's at the same level as Warhammer, and that takes a lot. Xiong, what do you have to say?
For tabletop miniatures, I think it actually falls back to it's not about if tabletop miniatures is superior. Sorry, let me rephrase. Tabletop miniature definitely it enhances the gaming experience, but the cost is also much higher. So it's game makers trying to find a balance between do I have this much of an audience that would buy this versus how good a game and I'm trying to churn out.
Yeah.
And comparing with paper tokens, what is this? But if I have like a Cthulhu, very lifelike miniature,
Oh,
yeah, it's
Cost
super
also
sexy.
lah.
Everyone will play it. Yeah, cost also. It's actually the cost versus game performance, game experience kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when Malaysia, our earning per capita is slightly lower. The,
Yes.
yeah. I'm sorry to the tabletop miniature lovers, but I do hope our currency gets better.
One day lah, one day. Yeah.
One day. Or if we could find ways with government initiatives to manufacture it locally,
Yes.
we may see coming sooner than we thought.
Well, we are more 3D printers now, so
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, we're all on the way to find out cheaper ways to enjoy better stuff. It's your how far we have progressed in gaming. It's essentially
Malaysians.
Malaysia boleh.
Malaysia boleh.
All right. Thank you so much to the audience and to the panelists for being here today. Thank you, panelists, for sharing with us all your interesting thoughts and ideas. And thank you to the audience for staying with us thus far, asking great questions. And before we end, I'd like to give the opportunity to each of our panelists to plug or promote any of their existing projects before we end. So maybe we can start with you, Ying.
Existing? I don't think so, because I'm just currently focusing on my PhD. So at the moment, not yet, I guess. But I really do hope that. But I'm planning to also later on gather some data, all right, across all gamers. So that probably I might send surveys around. If you all can assist, that would be great, because I'm trying to focus to improve our Malaysia gaming industry. So my PhD is focused on that, especially the indie scene, since all of us are indie developers. So yeah, that's all only I would just ask for.
Thank you. And Siu Hong.
My goals for this year, besides
MTTD.
yeah, hopefully, yeah. So there's a couple of different projects. So upcoming there will be Malaysian Tabletop Day, where we try to put it together with the International Tabletop Day, which is we placed it in the first weekend of June. So for this year, it's 5th and 6th of June. So we hope that everyone will try to play as much games as possible, be it tabletop or digital. Just go enjoy yourselves, snap pictures, and post it online. So we're trying to portray a message that gaming it's fun. Gaming it's neutral. They don't promote you to do violence and stuff, but actually a lot of meaningful conversations can be created. So we are trying to push this, and also further down the road, we have Merdeka Day, where we will give the spotlight to all the Malaysian-made games. We've been doing this for 2 years. This will be the 3rd year, and hopefully everyone could support local-made games. They deserve the spotlight and the chance. So everybody, you could talk to any of the friendly local game stores, or you can talk to me. I'll be happy to have your money, but just buy anywhere. Just buy it anywhere from. You can buy it from the designers herself as well as Chunyan. So give the local games a try. If you like it, perhaps you can join us and contribute to making your own games as well.
Thank you. What about you, Chunyan?
I'd like to echo back the plug for Centless. I think Siu Hong has been one of the best Malaysian board games. I think hands down Centless wins in being the proactive plugger for Malaysian design games. So yeah. So I've already mentioned TTGDMY. So developers, people, future designers, even if you have just thinking, it would be nice to design a game. Just join, and there's a whole community, and we have right now offline alpha meets, which are the play tests in both in Klang Valley. Well, there's online, and then there's also offline. There's Klang Valley. Should be starting up soon. Penang Utara, Alpha Meets Utara has already started, but very covert kind of because of COVID. And we're also going to take part in MTDD, Malaysian Tabletop Day. If you're interested, get my game Kaki Lima. I don't have a website yet for Bansan, but we'll start talking about it on social media. And then I also run a very little.
If you want to try it out, beta tester, contact Chunyan. Yeah, she'll be happy to have you play test for her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
true. Yeah, I also have a YouTube channel that I have like 4 videos in it, but I'm trying to promote Malaysian or regional board games that way as well.
And Akit.
Yeah, I'm releasing nothing much with games, I guess. To me, it's more of music for me. So this year I'm releasing my second, my continuation album from 2019. It's been 3 years worth of work. So I'm pretty excited for it, and I hope that the gamers would like the music that I do, because truthfully,
And perhaps game developers would scout you for
Yeah.
the theme songs.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
You are right
you
now
never know. Yeah.
working
Yeah.
closely with Audio's musicians
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, gaming has been an important part to me. Like my collective will release a song called Action Card because we play a lot of Monopoly, Monopoly games. We get inspired a lot from just playing games. So really, if you guys like music and gaming at the same time, check me out at Spotify A-Kid.
All right. Fun fact too, guys. Akit also created the songs Gaji Masuk and Apa Lagi Kita Mau, which are political in nature and pretty interesting. So check that out too.
Yep.
Last but not least, Project Dialogue will also definitely have to plug our own stuff. This week, an entire month of April is a month-long campaign for our game called Otak Jam. It's basically the expansion pack for Codenames Malaysia Edition. So we are collaborating together with Orangutan Games and Meeples for this. And we're also collaborating with 2 of our panelists over here. So Siu Hong is participating in this campaign. He's opening up his board game cafe for us to run these gaming sessions for the game. So keep an eye out for our announcements on Project Dialogue social media. His board game cafe is going to be one of the participating ones on 24th and 25th of April. And Akit China also is our collaborating influencer who is going to be promoting this game on his Instagram as well. So keep an eye out for that as well. Just a brief introduction. The game pack would come with the original Codenames Malaysia edition. It will also come with booklets to explain what the game is about and the expansion pack. What's interesting about our expansion pack is that we are introducing taboo or censored words in Malaysia. For example, 1MDB, Article 153, Sedition Act, Badut, homosexual, polygamy, Tuhan, Islam, Quran.
I'm surprised to see Pengkit in that.
Pengkit's in there. Pengkit's in homosexuals in there. Yeah. So this is to generate conversations, discussions among young people without them fearing whether do I need to be politically correct? No, don't worry about that. We're all here to learn. And also don't worry about am I allowed to say this or not say this? It's supposed to promote freedom of expression. We all have the right to freely think these thoughts and express and ask questions. Don't worry about being censored here. The whole point of this game is for you to have a lot of fun while learning new things. And also different cultures. There's Malayali, Hakka, Bajau
Temuan.
Gawai,
Mm.
Temuan. Interestingly, someone asked, like, what's Temuan? Temuan means gathering, is it? It means meeting. No, it's actually an indigenous tribe. So, yeah, things like that we learn. So do keep an eye out for the game. This is completely free. We don't charge for this game. They will be distributed free at board game cafes. And you can also DM us on our social media page and let us know if you want a free copy.
I want
Yeah.
to take one to Penang.
Yes. Yes. We'll work with you as well for Penang. Let's spread the word all over Malaysia.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Just stop by next Sunday and Saturday. It's free, so just come and sit here, enjoy, have a nice day playing Otak Jam. We look
Food and
forward to
drinks are provided too.
Yeah, food and drinks are provided. Yeah. When will you
Yeah.
be releasing the list of cafes again? So we're just letting everyone know. Probably.
Like how we're discussing work here in front of everyone. We'll give you the post today or tomorrow.
So everyone just tune in to Project Dialogue's Facebook or Instagram page.
Thank you to
Yes.
Project Dialogue. Thank you, Victoria, for holding this great
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, all of
Project
you.
Dialogue.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Gamers unite. All right. Good job, everyone. GG.
GGWP.
Yes. Bye. Take care, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.